All right.
All right, thanks, Brian. A controversial voter registration group known as Acorn being investigated for fraud in at least 10 states. Check them out, they're swing states. This is one of their offices in Nevada, raided by federal agents on Tuesday.
That's right, because a whole bunch of the Dallas Cowboys were registering to vote.
They didn't.
I don't think so. Exactly right. Peter Johnson Jr., our Fox News legal analyst, joins us live right now.
Morning.
Peter, I understand that it is illegal, a felony, I think, to register under a phony name.
Well, absolutely. Under state and federal laws, you can go to jail if you register falsely or you help someone to register falsely.
So the person in Nevada who registered Tony Romo, not actually Tony Romo, they could go to jail.
Absolutely, unless they did it accidentally, but it doesn't appear to be. I don't think Tony Romo was there.
Okay, but Peter, let's be honest. How many police officers are sitting around these voting centers and really looking at this and saying, okay, we're actually going to arrest these people? Not many, right?
You're absolutely right. After the 2000 election, I was appointed by Governor Pataki here in New York to chair the New York State Modernization Task Force in elections. And we looked at it, and we held hearings. Fraud is a pervasive problem in our election system, but it's an extremely difficult problem to actually detect. So what we have now in these 10 or 12 states around the country now is an intensive examination of what's going on. In fact, the FBI has opened an investigation in the state of New Mexico.
But is there enough time? Is there enough time? The election's in 26 days.
It's got to be a continuing process. The focus of many of these investigations in the past and currently is this organization, Acorn. And Acorn alleges that as of this election cycle, they have registered from 1.3 to 1.5 million voters. Now, figure out, based on what we're reading in the New York Post today in Cuyahoga County, and figure out what we've heard about registering dead people, registering NFL players, registering duplicate people.
People register cats.
You know, crazy names. What's the false rate? In terms of those 1.3 million and 1.5 million.
If it's 5%, if it's 10%, if it's 1%, if it's tight, it could completely tilt things.
And my next question, and we're going to carry you over, because here's the cliffhanger. Is there legal recourse after the election? Hold the thought.
Let's talk about that.
Okay. All right. Allegations of voter fraud running rampant this election season. How's it going to affect this year's race to the White House?
All right, we continue our conversation about voter fraud and Acorn with Fox News legal analyst Peter Johnson Jr. Peter, let me ask you about this. So we've been talking about, in particular, we've been focusing in on Cuyahoga County out in Ohio. I mean, let's be truthful about this. This is an area that is a huge majority of these people are Democrats voting for Barack Obama, presumably. But what's interesting is Barack Obama also has a history with Project Vote, involved in a motor voter thing, which is connected to Acorn. So let's take a look at what is going on. Well, do you see a connection?
Well, I don't know. You know, there is a past connection and there is a current connection. The past connection is Barack Obama was the executive director of an organization called Project Vote that was affiliated with Acorn back in 1992. From what I've understood in terms of the federal election records, an affiliated organization of Acorn has been paid almost $800,000 in the past by the Obama campaign with regard to this election. They call it advance work.
That's a good one.
Apparently, you know, registration efforts. We know that Senator Obama represented Acorn as a lawyer. We know that he trained community organizers.
Is this just a coincidence that this is going on in these districts?
There's no allegation or evidence that Senator Obama is associated with any fraud. But there is an absolute, undeniable link between the two organizations. And there's an undeniable understanding that in the past there have been investigations and convictions involving former and present Acorn employees.
No doubt.
Colorado, Washington, Missouri, Wisconsin. And now these investigations that we're in now.
Nobody's against getting people to register to vote. I mean, that's why we live in a democracy. We just want to do it legally.
No, we have a history in this country of suppressing votes with the poll tax, with literacy tests. That's wrong.
What about not letting women vote? That was wrong.
Absolutely.
It's funny that you would bring that up.
But the point is, every vote does count. And a lot of people say, well, you know, what does it really matter whether there's a few votes or a few thousand votes that shouldn't be there?
Until Florida.
Every fraudulent vote cancels your vote, your vote, and my vote.
Legal recourse after the election. Any?
Sue everybody.
Well, you know, you can invalidate state-by-state elections under state and federal law. Justice Department can step in. They can say that there's a pervasive amount of fraud that affects the outcome. But then you need affidavits. You need evidence. People have gone to jail for election fraud. They will continue to. The problem is a lot of local district attorneys who rely on organizations like Acorn for support, for get-out-the-vote operations, don't have the will to make those prosecutions. I think the tide is changing. I think Americans are very, very upset about what's going on. This will be a continuing issue in this election, and it should be.